Today is the review of the month of June. I was bummed by that a little bit. Whoa. And you know what? That is alright. Well. I cried the first time I read it, and I cried again. Good morning, everyone. Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Cameron. I make lots of books about reading. Make lots of books. Hold on. I make lots of videos about books and reading and stuff like that. So welcome. Do you need something? She wants to go outside. If you have been here before, welcome back. Today is the review of the month of June. How much did I read? What did I do? I talked about this in my last few months, that I feel like I've been in like a multi-month reading slump because I've just like really not been motivated to read. I started getting more motivated towards the end of June, which is great, but I really didn't read as much as I normally read. So yeah, I only read 15 books, 5 of which were audiobooks, which is like a very, very slow month for me. I am not sitting here trying to be like,
I only read 15 books, blah, blah, blah.
Because I also recognize that a lot of people don't even read that in a year. So this is not me sitting here like trying to brag to you guys like I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. Like everyone reads at their own pace. Everyone reads whatever they're interested in. I read at a very fast pace and I like reading lots of different books, and some people aren't built that way, and that is okay. Regardless, I read 15 books, 5 of which were audiobooks. I spent 46 hours reading this month, which is a bummer because I've normally set that I want to read 50 hours in a month, so I was bummed by that a little bit, but you know, months are just like that. It was a slow month for me. I'm still above the hours I want to read this year, so we're still in a good spot there. I try to get 50 hours every month, and I think for the year I have read 329 hours, so I'm still doing good. Let's be very clear. But yeah, just June was very slow for me, and I was also just very busy, so instead of staying home and reading some days, I would go out and do things, which is great. In those physical books I read 4,000. Whoa. In the physical books that I read 2,638 pages, and my best day of reading was 553 pages and 233 minutes of reading. So obviously if you read audiobooks you can't really count pages and stuff like that, but you can count time spent. My star rating for this month was 3.67 stars. So I think I also just encountered a lot of books that I wasn't maybe the most interested in. And you know what? That is alright. So my reading pace this month was 146.6 pages an hour. So when I got to reading, I read very fast, but when I wasn't, I was not. That's not clear at all, but you know, you know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about some of the books that I did read. As you know, if you've been here, I set 3 goal books for myself every month. I try to read a classic book, a translated book, and a nonfiction book. So let's talk a little bit about those. My nonfiction book this month, I was trying to read majority LGBTQIA+ books written by queer authors. So my nonfiction was a memoir called Greedy by Jen Winston. And it was just about her experiences being bisexual and her experiences in dating multiple genders and experiencing biphobia, and she was very funny. I did enjoy the book. I gave it 4 stars. Let me double check. Yes. It was kind of an introductory book. I do wish there had been maybe some deeper discussions in there, but if you are looking to find more information about bisexuality and kind of read funny stories throughout, someone who kind of pokes fun at themselves, that was a great read. It was a really good memoir. I really enjoyed it. My classic book this month was Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, which I have never read before. I was very impressed with it. It was written and takes place in the 1950s in Italy, I believe. She's gonna scream at the door the entire time if she doesn't come up and join. Come on. Well, well, well. Coming to visit? But yeah, so I read Giovanni's Room for the very first time. I had a great time reading it. It's very sad. Like, it's very much what you would expect about gay men in the 1950s. Like, they have to remain closeted, and the main character is engaged to a woman, and a bunch of stuff like that. But really, really well written. I thought it was interesting because I finished that book the day I went to my city's Pride Festival. So it was just really nice to see how far we've come since the publication of that book, and it was very good. I think James Baldwin's writing is just very easy for me to read, so I will probably be seeking out more of his books in the future. My translated book, this is a Portuguese book called This Is Our Place by Vitor Martins. It takes place in Brazil. It's about a house and each of its tenants every 10 years and their experiences with growing up and finding love and a bunch of things like that. I just thought it was so sweet. I gave it 4.5 stars. I also gave Giovanni's Room 4.5 stars. But I gave This Is Our Place 4.5 stars just because I thought it was a really nice, easy read. It was very fun. The three time periods were the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s, right when COVID was happening. And it just gave such a good look into living life and like growing up and learning about your queer identity. And there's a bunch of family dynamics and a whole bunch of stuff like that. I thought it was just so sweet. And then I did reread 2 books this month. I reread them because when I find like a new favorite book, I try my best to read them for a second time before like officially being like, all right, this is my thoughts about these books. Like, these can be solidified as one of my favorites. So I like rereading books that I really enjoyed just to be like, all right, when I read them, was I in a weird mental space, or are these actually good? So the 2 books that I reread were Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi and Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, which is my favorite T.J. Klune book. So Yolk is about 2 sisters, and it is about their experiences being first-generation American, and one of them goes through a cancer scare, and it's kind of about them reuniting after being estranged and kind of dealing with that along with the trauma they got from their parents and stuff like that. I love books about sisters and sisterly relationships, and I don't feel like I read that many of them, which is a shame because I'm very close with both my sisters. But yeah, so I read that. I cried the first time I read it, and I cried again reading it. So I love that book. I think it's really, really good. And then Under the Whispering Door is about a man who dies and how he gets sent to a tea shop as kind of like, this is the place where you're gonna hang out before you pass on. It's about him kind of like learning how to live even though he's already died. I love that book. I think it's so sweet. It's such a fast read. It also details like a queer romance and stuff like that. Oh my goodness. It's so good. It's my favorite TJ Klune book. So if you haven't read it before, you definitely should. So let's talk about some of the other stuff I read. I don't normally go over all of the books I read because I don't feel the need to elaborate on books that I feel so about. You know me. You know I make this channel just so I can yap at you, and if I don't feel like I have anything to yap about, then I'm not gonna yap about it. There she goes. Something I am reading right now is the Simon Snow series. So that is Carry On, Wayward Son, and Any Way the Wind Blows. I'm currently on Any Way the Wind Blows. Obviously it is now July, so I'm not gonna detail everything about what Any Way the Wind Blows, but the first 2 books are very fun. This series is so funny because the author, Rainbow Rowell, wrote a book called Fangirl, in which the main character writes fan fiction about this series, Simon Snow.
So the books are the fan fictions that character is writing about another series. In Simon Snow, in the original Fangirl book, it very clearly is like a spoof of Harry Potter and the Harry and Draco ship specifically. But she went back in and did Carry On and Wayward Son and all that as the fan fictions.
It's super meta, long story short, but I have actually really enjoyed it. I think there are some really fun, it's very clearly a parody of Harry Potter, and it has a very different magic system, and I actually really enjoy it. I really liked the first one. I think I gave it 4 stars. The second one I didn't like so much, but it is a trilogy, so, and typically, and maybe this is just my opinion, let me know your thoughts in the comments if you agree with me, but I really feel like the second book of trilogies most of the time, or second movie, or second whatever of trilogies, most of the time is the worst one. Oops. So I was not surprised when I rated Wayward Son lower than maybe I would have otherwise. But yeah, so I am currently reading that. I am having a really good time, especially as someone who has recently renounced Harry Potter. It was fun to get back into something that had a lot of the nostalgia of it, but also didn't support that author. And that's all I'm gonna say about it right now. Another book I read was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, which is a story about a nanny who is black who gets caught in kind of a public altercation at a supermarket, and it's about like what happens after that. So like it's her and she is at the store very late into the night with her white client's daughter. So it's a lot of kind of what chronicles after the events of that happening, and it has the point of view of her and her client and a few other points of views of like what's going on. I had fun reading it. I thought it was interesting. I am trying to learn how to be a better ally, and that honestly reading fictional works like that is a really good way to be like, oh, I might be doing some of these things that affect this black character in my real life. So I thought it was a good time. Kylie Reed also recently put out a new book. I think it's called Come and Get It. It's got a little pig on the cover. So if you've read that, please let me know if you think it's good. I'm still deciding if I want to read it because I've heard very mixed reviews about it. But yeah, so that was one of the first ones I read this month. I think I was already reading it when the month started, which is why it's not a queer read, but I still had a good time reading it. I thought it was very interesting. And then the other one that I really liked, I'm trying to read more Palestinian literature. I read You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. Just an interesting story about the main character is a love addict, so she has to go through rehab and a bunch of stuff like that just to learn how to be an independent person who isn't constantly looking for love or romance or obsessing over people that are unattainable to her. It was a really interesting exploration of addiction and being dependent on people around you and stuff like that. So, also, the author is Palestinian, so there's also the nature of she is trying to figure out how she wants to come out to her very traditional mother because she dates women. So I had a good time reading it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I could be wrong, but I thought it was very good. It's kind of in the same strain. Like, obviously there are other topics, but it's kind of in the same strain as Mame and Evil Eye, both of which I read earlier this year. But yeah, it is very good. I had a good time reading it. That is really all I have for you today. This is going to be one of the shorter videos that I have made in quite a while. I guess that's the nature of slow reading months. But have you read any of the books that I was talking about today? Do you guys have any recommendations for me? Like, did you hear me explaining one of these books and being like, hey, I have another book that's very similar to this? Please let me know. I would love to read them. I'm always looking for recommendations. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And you know what's right next to the thumbs up? The subscribe button. It would be really cool if you guys subscribed, especially since you've made it this far into the video. I post shorts very frequently, probably 5 days a week. I post a new long form video every Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Today, go read some queer literature. I know Pride Month is over, but you know, no harm in reading more. Go climb a tree. Why? It's summer. It could be fun. And go visit your local library. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.